Welcome back to Intellify. I'm Rasika Ramakrishna and let's continue with the chapter on Introduction to Trigonometry. Exercise 8.2, question number 2. Choose the correct option and justify your choice. Alright, so here we have a question with 4 subdivisions and each subdivision is a multiple choice question. So we have a question and 4 options which we've got to choose from. So let's look at each subdivision as and when we encounter them. Alright, so let's look at subdivision 1. Here we have to compute 2 tan 30 divided by 1 plus tan square 30. And we have 4 options. Option 1 is sin 60, option 2 is cos 60, option 3 is tan 60, and option 4 is sin 30. Alright, so whenever you encounter a question like this, you can either go ahead and blindly substitute the values of tan 30 and obtain the suitable answer. Or what we could do is we could use an identity. Well, here's a spoiler. The answer is option A. The answer is sin 60. Let's look at why it is sin 60. I mean, in a multiple choice question, whenever you're answering, it's always important to know the why rather than the answer. So, well, we know that sin 2x is 2 tan x by 1 plus tan square x. So, here in this case, we have x to be 30, which implies that 2 tan 30 by 1 plus tan square 30 is going to be nothing but sine of 2 times 30, which is nothing but sin 60. Thus, option A. Alright, so let's move on to subdivision 2. Here we have to evaluate 1 minus tan square 45 by 1 plus tan square 45. Now at this point, it's pretty simple, the answer, because we know that tan 45 is equal to 1, right? And the numerator becomes 0. Thus, your answer is option D. We have it to be 0. But you could also, if the basic substitution didn't strike you in the first go, there is another complicated, probably or longer way of looking at it. So we know that cos 2x is 1 minus tan square x by 1 plus tan square x. So in this case, we'll have x to be 45. Therefore, we have 1 minus tan square 45 by 1 plus tan square 45 to be cos of 2 times 45, which is nothing but cos 90, which is equal to 0. So why I have done this here, why I have actually explained the longer way of solving the question here is because sometimes direct substitution will actually be shorter than reasoning without substitution. Okay, so it is always important for you to analyze the question and see which way of solving will give you the answer faster. Alright, so let's look at question number 3. So here we have sine 2a is equal to 2 sine a is true when a is either equal to 0 degrees or 30 degrees or 45 degrees or 60 degrees. Right, so this question is not pretty obvious, right? I mean, this is not something, there is no identity that talks about it, or maybe there is, if you think about it for some time, you'll arrive at it. So there are 2 ways of going about this question. So first, I have given you the spoiler. The answer is 0. Try and reason. So one way of going about this now is to try and reason why the answer is 0. Right? Once you try to do that, you will have a better understanding. So I encourage you to do that before you see why the answer is 0. Before you see me explaining it. That is. All right. So well, there are 2 ways of going about this question again. So one, what we could do is we could sit and substitute each of A, B, C and D, right? So we have sine 2A, if you substitute 0, you have sine 2A to be 0 and 2 times sine A to be 0, therefore the equality is held. But if you substitute 30, you have sine 60 on the left hand side, which is root 3 by 2, and 2 times sine 30, which is nothing but 1 on the right hand side, which does not make sense. So B is not the answer. C, you have sine 90 on the left hand side, which is 1, and 2 times sine 45, which is nothing but root 2 on the right hand side, therefore equality does not hold. And option D, well, we have sine 120 on the left hand side. Sine 120 is nothing but sine of 180 minus 60, which is nothing but sine 60, which is root 3 by 2, and you have 2 times sine 60 here, which is nothing but root 3 on the right hand side, therefore these both don't hold. So you have option A to be your answer. So one way, as I said, is to substitute each of these values and see which one holds. So that is a brute force and layman's way of going about it. but we are all like studying mathematics and we know some basic stuff about trigonometry. So let's try and apply that. So here is the other more appropriate and encouraged way. So what we do is we know that sine 2a is equal to 2 sine a cos a, right? That is an identity. So we substitute this identity on the left hand side. What does that give us? We have 2 sine a cos a to be equal to 2 sine a. This is what we need to be satisfied. So which implies that 2 sine a cos a minus 2 sine a should be equal to 0, which implies that 2 cos a should be equal to 2 or cos a should be equal to 1. So for what value of a, right, does cos a equals 1, where a is in one of these options? Well, the answer is 0. Therefore, we have a equal to 0 degrees, which is your option A. Now, let's move on to subdivision 4. Here, we have to find out 2 tan 30 by 1 minus tan square 30. So, I don't want you to immediately jump and say that the answer is sine 60, because we looked at something very similar in subdivision 1, except the denominator there had a 1 plus tan square 30 and the denominator here has a 1 minus tan square 30, and that plays a huge difference in what the answer is. So the answer is definitely not sine 60, and I'm giving that to you. Well, the answer is actually cos 60. I've given you the spoiler, so I want you to think about why the answer is cos 60. Like, please press pause on this slide and think about it. Well, the answer is cos 60 because, well, we know an identity which says that cos 2x is equal to 2 tan x by 1 minus tan squared x. So in the above case, we will have x to be 30. So we have 2 tan 30 by 1 minus tan squared 30 to be equal to cos of 2 times 30, which is nothing but cos 60. Hence your option A.